Lyra floated above the sparkling city of her home planet, her eyes scanning the endless lines of light that traced the movement of vehicles and pedestrians below. From her position on the observation deck of the tallest tower, the world looked calm, peaceful, and orderly. Everything here ran like a well-oiled machine, from the energy grids to the communication networks. Her species had built a civilization that most other galaxies would envy. Intelligent, disciplined, and far advanced. Yet Lyra felt incomplete. She had always been different. While her peers took pride in their abilities to process information instantly and follow the rules of logic without question, Lyra's mind wandered. She found herself thinking about things that did not exist on her planet. The chaos, unpredictability, and raw emotion of humans. She had seen them in the data streams intercepted from Earth, and they fascinated her. Humans were messy, noisy, and often illogical, but they had something her people lacked: heart. Her fascination had begun years ago, when she first discovered a small, corrupted transmission of an old human television show. It was poorly recorded, with colors flickering and sound distorted, yet it held her attention for hours. She watched humans laugh, cry, and argue, and felt a strange warmth in her chest. That warmth was something no logical calculation could explain. She began to collect more transmissions, learning human history, culture, and even daily routines. Lyra's obsession grew when she stumbled upon a report of a human soldier named Alex. The file showed him saving his squad from a dangerous alien creature on a remote planet. What struck Lyra was not just his bravery, but the way he looked after others, even at great personal risk. Every decision he made, every action he took, carried a sense of humanity that her species had never truly understood. She replayed the clips countless times, analyzing the tiniest gestures, the expressions that showed emotion rather than strategy. "This is remarkable," she whispered to herself, tracing the image of Alex with her slender fingers. "There is something in humans that cannot be calculated or controlled. Something alive." Her curiosity quickly became obsession. Lyra wanted to see humans for herself. Not as a distant observer, not through data streams or videos, but in real life. Her studies told her that humans were unpredictable, even dangerous, yet she felt drawn to them in ways she could not explain. Her heart, an organ her people considered primitive, beat faster whenever she imagined walking among humans, speaking their language, and understanding them firsthand. She knew the risks. Her species had strict rules about interacting with other intelligent life, especially species they considered primitive. Exposure could be dangerous. Humans might fear her or, worse, try to harm her. But the pull was too strong to ignore. Lyra had made a decision. "I will go," she said, her voice firm yet tinged with excitement. "I must understand them. I must meet them." With precision and careful planning, Lyra activated her personal travel pod. Unlike most of her people, who relied on massive starships and advanced transport systems, she preferred discretion. The pod was small, nearly invisible, and equipped with a shape-shifting exterior that could mimic the appearance of any creature. Lyra programmed it to appear as a human female. She chose a simple form: average height, brown hair, plain clothing. It was unremarkable enough to avoid attention, but close enough to human biology to pass initial observation. As the pod shot through the atmosphere and into the void of space, Lyra felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was her first journey to another world, and the stakes were higher than anything she had faced before. Her species had explored countless planets, cataloging life forms and resources, but she was taking a step that went beyond research. She was crossing the boundary between observation and experience. The journey to Earth was long, spanning hundreds of light years. Lyra occupied her time by reviewing everything she had learned about humans. She studied their language, customs, and even emotions. She practiced smiling, laughing, and expressing curiosity in ways that felt natural. Yet, no matter how much preparation she did, she could not predict how humans would react to her. Finally, the pod entered Earth's orbit. Lyra peered through the viewing window, marveling at the blue and green sphere below. Oceans stretched like liquid mirrors, forests swayed in the wind, and cities glimmered with artificial light. She felt a strange mix of awe and nervousness. This world, so small and fragile compared to her home planet, was brimming with life, energy, and unpredictability. She chose a landing site near a small city, where human activity was dense but not overwhelming. The pod's descent was smooth, almost silent. Lyra activated the shape-shifting exterior and emerged as a human girl. The sensation of her new body was strange. She could feel the warmth of the sun on her skin, the gentle pull of gravity, and the subtle tension of muscles she had never used in this way before. It was intoxicating. Stepping onto the earthly soil, Lyra felt a thrill that she had never experienced. The air smelled different, filled with scents of grass, concrete, and distant cooking fires. She walked carefully, observing humans as they went about their daily lives. Some glanced at her curiously. Others paid no attention. She had studied this behavior in videos, yet seeing it firsthand made her pulse quicken. Her first encounter with a human was unexpected. A small child ran past her, laughing and holding a toy spaceship. The child stopped abruptly, staring at her with wide eyes. "Are you an alien?" the child asked innocently. Lyra froze. The word alien sounded strange coming from a human mouth. She hesitated, then smiled gently. "No," she said softly. "I'm just different." The child studied her for a moment, then shrugged and ran off. Lyra exhaled, realizing how careful she had to be. Humans were curious, yes, but they were also quick to judge what they did not understand. As days passed, Lyra explored the city, learning human behavior up close. She visited markets, parks, and libraries, absorbing the rhythms of human life. Everything fascinated her. The way humans interacted, the way they laughed at jokes, and even the way they struggled and failed. She found herself drawn to one particular human. Alex. Alex was easy to recognize. Her transmissions had given her a mental image of him, but seeing him in real life was different. He moved with confidence, helping people when needed, always aware of his surroundings. He did not know Lyra was observing him, yet she felt a strange connection, as if some invisible thread linked them across the vastness of space. Lyra began to follow him from a distance. She watched as he assisted a stranded family when their vehicle broke down and comforted a frightened child after a minor accident. Each act of kindness and courage made her pulse faster. She was beginning to understand why humans were so captivating. They were fragile, yet brave. Unpredictable, yet compassionate. But the more she watched, the more her emotions grew. Lyra realized that she was not merely curious. She craved human experiences, touch, laughter, companionship. Her fascination had become a longing she could no longer ignore. Every day spent near Alex intensified her desire to connect, to understand fully what it meant to be human. One evening, as the sun set and the city was bathed in golden light, Lyra sat on a rooftop and allowed herself to reflect. Her heart, something her species usually regarded as unnecessary, felt full and heavy at the same time. "Why do I feel this way?" she whispered. "Why do humans affect me like this?" No logical explanation came. The calculations, data, and observations could not account for the warmth in her chest, the thrill of seeing Alex smile, or the longing she felt when she imagined speaking with him. She realized that humans were not just interesting. They were alive in a way her species could never be. Determined to learn more, Lyra made a silent promise to herself. She would not remain a distant observer. She would approach humans, meet them, and experience their world firsthand. And most importantly, she would find a way to understand Alex, the human who had captured her attention and imagination so completely. Little did she know, her presence on Earth had already begun to ripple through human lives in ways she could never have predicted. The first step toward understanding, connection, and perhaps even friendship had begun. And for Lyra, it was only the beginning of a journey that would change both her life and the life of the human she had come to admire from afar. Lyra woke early the next morning, her mind buzzing with excitement and nervous anticipation. She had spent the night thinking about humans, and especially Alex. Watching them from a distance had been fascinating, but now she wanted more. She wanted interaction. She wanted to speak with him, to understand what made him so human. She dressed carefully in simple clothing that she had observed humans wear: jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a light jacket. Her hair, brown and loose, fell around her shoulders in a way that would not draw too much attention. She examined herself in a small mirror, adjusting her posture to appear confident but approachable. Even in human form, she was aware of every movement, every subtle expression. The city was already alive with activity as she stepped outside. She could feel the pulse of human life around her, the chatter of morning commuters, the distant hum of traffic, the laughter of children on their way to school. Each sound, each gesture fascinated her. She tried to mimic the humans' casual expressions, smiling when others smiled, nodding when they greeted her, trying to blend in. Her first real encounter came unexpectedly. Alex was helping a man lift a heavy crate into a store. Lyra watched, hiding behind a corner, as he grunted with effort but refused to leave the man struggling. When the crate finally slid into place, Alex wiped his hands and turned, his eyes scanning the street. Their gazes met. Lyra froze, heart racing. He gave her a small, polite smile before moving on. Her pulse quickened. That brief connection, fleeting as it was, filled her with warmth. She realized that humans were not just fascinating from afar. They carried an energy that she wanted to be part of. She wanted to know them, and most of all, she wanted to understand Alex. Lyra knew she could not approach him immediately. Humans were cautious of strangers, and she had no idea how he would react if he knew she was not one of them. So she decided to learn first. She followed him at a safe distance, observing his interactions with others. Every action told a story. The way he helped an elderly woman cross the street. The way he comforted a child who had fallen from a bike. The way he spoke patiently with coworkers who disagreed with him. It's not just bravery, Lyra whispered to herself. It's compassion. They fight, they risk themselves, but they care for each other. That is what makes humans extraordinary. Days passed, and Lyra became more confident in her movements and speech. She practiced greetings, small talk, and gestures that humans use to show friendliness. She even experimented with humor, imitating jokes she had seen in transmissions. Some attempts failed. Humans would frown or look confused, but others elicited smiles. And that small success thrilled her. One afternoon, as Alex sat in a small park reading a book, Lyra decided it was time to approach. She walked slowly, careful to appear casual. Her hands were tucked loosely into her jacket pockets, her head held high, and her expression relaxed. When she reached a bench near him, she hesitated, heart pounding. "Hi," she said softly. Alex looked up, surprised but not alarmed. "Hi," he replied. "Do I know you?" Lyra shook her head. "No, not really. I'm new here, just exploring." Her words sounded strange, even to her own ears, but they seemed to work. Alex nodded politely. "Well, welcome," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Alex." "I'm Lyra," she said, feeling a thrill as her name passed her lips. It felt strange and right at the same time. For a moment, they sat in silence, the only sounds coming from children playing nearby and birds chirping in the trees. Lyra studied him carefully. His eyes were calm, kind, and curious, and she felt drawn to that curiosity. It mirrored her own, though he had no idea. "So, you like to explore?" Alex asked finally, closing his book. Lyra nodded. "Yes, I like to see new things, learn new things." Her words were simple, but they carried the truth. She wanted to see humans, understand them, and experience the world through their eyes. Alex smiled, a little amused. "I guess that makes sense. Exploration is a good way to learn." They began to talk more, exchanging small stories about their daily lives. Lyra carefully avoided revealing anything about her alien origins, but she asked questions that humans might not expect, drawing Alex into conversations that were both curious and insightful. She learned about his hobbies, his favorite foods, and the small challenges he faced at work. In return, she shared stories from her own life, carefully modified to sound human enough to be believable. The more time they spent together, the more Lyra felt a strange connection growing. She laughed at Alex's jokes, even the bad ones, and felt a warmth when he smiled at her. For the first time in her life, she felt a closeness she could not measure or analyze. It was real, and it thrilled her. One day, they went to a small museum. Lyra's fascination with human history and creativity became apparent as she moved from exhibit to exhibit, asking questions and commenting on what she saw. Alex watched her, fascinated. "You really enjoy this," he said, smiling as she examined a painting of a distant landscape. Yes," Lyra admitted. "I find humans interesting. Their work, their creativity. It is alive." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "I guess I never thought about it that way. We just live our lives, I suppose." "It is more than living," Lyra said softly. "It is feeling, caring, and learning from each other. That is what I want to understand." Her words were strange, even poetic, and Alex sensed there was something unusual about her. But instead of fear or suspicion, he felt a desire to know her better. There was honesty in her eyes, a sincerity that humans rarely encountered. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra's presence became a normal part of Alex's life. She accompanied him to parks, cafes, and quiet streets, learning about human habits and interactions. Sometimes she stumbled, mispronouncing words or misunderstanding gestures, but Alex always laughed gently and corrected her without judgment. She appreciated this patience, feeling more comfortable each day. One afternoon, as they sat on a hill overlooking the city, Alex shared a story about a friend who had moved far away. Lyra listened intently, her eyes soft and thoughtful. "It's hard when people you care about leave," she said quietly. Her voice carried more emotion than she intended, and Alex looked at her curiously. "Yes," he said. "It is. But you remember them, and the memories help you." Lyra nodded, feeling a strange longing in her chest. Memories, feelings, connection. Humans had something her species had never truly understood, and she craved it more and more each day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm orange light across the landscape, Lyra realized something important. Her fascination with humans was no longer just curiosity. It had become a longing, a desire to be part of their world, to connect, to experience what it meant to be alive. And Alex, the human who had inspired her from the beginning, was at the center of that desire. Yet, despite her growing bond with him, she knew she had to be careful. The truth of her origins could not be revealed, not yet. Humans were unpredictable, and while Alex had shown kindness and trust, she could not risk frightening him or others. For now, she would continue learning, observing, and slowly building a connection that might one day allow her to share her secret. As night fell, Lyra looked up at the stars, her mind racing with possibilities. The universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike. But here, on this small blue planet, she had discovered something extraordinary: friendship, trust, and the beginnings of something deeper. She smiled, a small, human-like smile, feeling warmth in her chest she had never known before. Tomorrow, she would learn more. She would step closer to Alex, test the boundaries of human interaction, and discover how far curiosity and courage could take her. And maybe, just maybe, she would begin to understand the true meaning of connection. For Lyra, the journey had only just begun. Humans were more than fascinating. They were alive in a way that no data or calculation could explain. And she, an alien girl far from home, could not resist their pull. The days passed quickly for Lyra. Her bond with Alex had grown deeper, yet every moment carried an undercurrent of tension she could not ignore. Each smile, each shared laugh, each conversation pulled her closer to the humans she admired. But it also reminded her that her presence here was a secret. She was no ordinary human, and the truth of her origin was something she could not yet reveal. Lyra spent her mornings practicing human behavior, refining gestures and expressions until they appeared natural. Her afternoons were spent with Alex, learning about human life in ways no video or transmission could teach her. She discovered their love for music, the joy in simple games, the comfort of sharing stories, and the warmth of companionship. She felt things she had never known: empathy, excitement, even the subtle thrill of fear when something unexpected happened. Yet, despite the joy, an unease lingered. The truth of her alien origin pressed against the walls of her mind, growing heavier each day. She knew she could not hide it forever. Alex was kind, patient, and curious, but humans could be unpredictable. How would he react if he knew the truth? Would he trust her, or would fear push him away? Lyra often pondered these questions alone, watching the sun set from quiet rooftops. The world was beautiful in its simplicity, chaotic yet alive. She wondered if humans understood their own brilliance, their resilience, and the depth of their emotions. More importantly, she wondered if she could trust one human enough to share her secret. And the answer seemed to hover in front of her every day. Alex stopped one evening. As the city's lights flickered on and cast a warm glow over the streets, Lyra found herself walking with Alex along a quiet riverbank. The air was crisp, and the reflection of the city shimmered on the water. They spoke softly, sharing stories and thoughts that were both mundane and profound. Lyra felt the warmth of his presence, the steady rhythm of his voice, and the genuine curiosity that always seemed to draw her closer. "Lyra," Alex said suddenly, breaking a comfortable silence, "you're different from anyone I've ever met. I can't explain it, but being around you feels easy, natural." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. His words were simple, yet they carried a weight she had been longing to hear. She looked at him carefully, considering how to respond. "I feel the same," she said softly. "There is something about humans, something I do not fully understand. I want to understand it, and I want to understand you." Alex stopped walking and turned to face her. His expression was curious but gentle. "Understand me? What do you mean?" Lyra hesitated. She had rehearsed this moment countless times, but the words felt heavier in real life. The truth she carried was immense. She was not human. She had traveled light years to reach Earth, and her fascination with humans went far beyond mere curiosity. She took a deep breath, willing herself to speak. "Alex, I am not like you," she began. "I am from another world. My people are not human. We are different. I have studied humans for a long time, and I came here because I wanted to know what it is like to be among them, to feel what you feel, to understand you." Alex blinked, processing her words. The world seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, he said nothing. Lyra's pulse raced, her chest tight with anticipation and fear. Would he reject her? Would he see her as a threat? But instead of fear, he looked at her with a strange mixture of awe and curiosity. "You came all this way to learn about humans?" he asked slowly. "Yes," Lyra said, her voice trembling slightly. "Not just to learn, to experience. Humans are alive in a way my people are not. You fight, you laugh, you care for one another. You inspire feelings in me I cannot explain. I crave these feelings, this connection. And you, Alex? You inspire me more than anyone else I have ever seen." Alex stepped closer, studying her face. There was sincerity in her eyes, a raw honesty that humans rarely encountered. Despite the revelation, he did not recoil or step back. Instead, he reached out, lightly touching her hand. You're serious," he said quietly. Lyra nodded. "I am. I know it is strange, even frightening. But I do not mean to harm you or anyone. I just want to understand and to connect." Alex's fingers lingered on hers. He took a deep breath, his own curiosity and admiration beginning to outweigh any fear. "I've never met anyone like you. This is incredible." For a long moment, they stood silently, hands almost touching, the cool breeze carrying the scent of the river. Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest that was unlike anything she had experienced on her home planet. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were capable of kindness and trust in ways her people rarely understood. I think I understand," Alex said finally. "It's not about where you come from or what you are. It's about connection, feeling something real with someone else." Lyra's eyes brightened. "Yes, that is exactly it. You understand." A small smile appeared on Alex's face, and Lyra felt a surge of hope. Perhaps humans were not as fragile as she had feared. Perhaps trust and understanding could bridge the gap between species. Over the next few days, their bond grew stronger. Lyra was careful to remain human in appearance, but her fascination and admiration for Alex deepened into something more profound. She shared stories of other worlds, carefully omitting details that might reveal her origin too soon. Alex, in turn, shared his dreams, fears, and experiences, unaware that he was helping Lyra learn about human emotion firsthand. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of a small building, watching the stars, Lyra allowed herself to speak more freely. "Alex, I need to tell you something else," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex looked at her, attentive and patient. "Anything," he said. "My fascination with humans is not just curiosity," she admitted. "It is craving. I crave understanding, companionship, connection, being around you. It makes me feel alive in ways I cannot describe. I feel things I never thought possible." Alex reached out, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Lyra, you don't have to explain. I think I understand. You're drawn to what humans feel, and you found someone who inspires that in you. That's incredible." Lyra felt tears prick her eyes. She had expected fear, rejection, or confusion, but instead, she found understanding. Humans were indeed remarkable. They could inspire, forgive, and embrace even the unknown. And Alex? Alex had done all of that without even realizing it. That night, as they parted ways, Lyra reflected on everything she had experienced. Her journey had begun with curiosity, turned into fascination, and had now blossomed into something deeper. She had revealed her secret, her true self, and found that connection was possible. Humans were not just unpredictable. They were resilient, empathetic, and capable of trust beyond logic. She looked up at the sky, stars twinkling like distant jewels. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and challenges. Yet here, on this small blue planet, she had discovered something extraordinary: friendship, trust, and the beginnings of love. Lyra knew that the days ahead would bring new challenges. Her secret could still be discovered by others, and the consequences of being an alien among humans were unpredictable. Yet, she also knew that for the first time in her life, she was not alone. She had found someone who could see beyond appearances, who could understand her desire to connect, and who had inspired her in ways no data or calculation ever could dot. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Lyra felt a sense of peace. The confession had been difficult, terrifying even, but it had opened a door to understanding, connection, and perhaps even love. And for Lyra, that was worth every risk she had taken. The human world was vast, complicated, and sometimes dangerous, but it was alive in ways she had never imagined. And now she was a part of it, not just an observer, but a participant, ready to experience everything humans had to offer. Tomorrow, she would continue learning, continue exploring, and continue building the bond that had begun on a simple rooftop under the endless stars. And she would do it alongside Alex, the human who had captured her fascination, her curiosity, and her heart. For Lyra, the journey of understanding, connection, and emotional discovery was only beginning. And with Alex by her side, she felt ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The days after Lyra's confession passed in a blur of emotions, discovery, and quiet understanding. She and Alex continued to meet daily, walking through the city streets, sitting in parks, and exploring corners of the world neither had ever noticed before. Every moment carried a new lesson about humans, about connection, and about the unique bond they shared. Alex had asked many questions about her origins, but Lyra had chosen to answer carefully, revealing enough to satisfy his curiosity while keeping the full truth of her species' nature concealed. She described distant stars, worlds filled with strange creatures, and technologies that seemed almost magical. Alex listened with fascination, his mind expanding to imagine possibilities he had never considered. "You really have seen so much," he said one afternoon as they walked along the river. "It's incredible to think someone could have experienced all that." Lyra smiled, the sunlight catching the strands of her brown hair. "Yes, but what I experience here with humans is different. It is unpredictable, alive. I did not expect it to feel this way." Alex stopped and looked at her, noticing the intensity in her eyes. "You mean with me?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, you inspire feelings I cannot measure. You show me what it means to connect, to care, to feel alive." Alex hesitated, searching for words. "Lyra, I never thought I'd meet someone like you. You're different, yes, but being with you, it feels right, natural, like I'm seeing a side of the universe I didn't know existed." Her chest tightened at his words. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they could be generous in ways her people rarely understood. Alex's trust and acceptance gave her courage. She realized that she did not need to hide her fascination any longer. It was no longer fear or obsession. It was admiration and connection. One evening, Alex invited her to a small gathering at his apartment. Friends had come over to celebrate a simple victory at work, laughing and sharing stories. Lyra observed carefully, fascinated by the warmth, humor, and energy that flowed so naturally among humans. She noticed how they comforted each other, teased playfully, and celebrated small successes. The sense of community, the depth of care, and the ability to forgive mistakes, this was what she had longed to understand. Humans are extraordinary, she whispered to Alex as they stepped aside for a quiet moment. He smiled. "I think they're better than we realize. And I think you fit in more than you know." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was not merely admiration. This was understanding, trust, and acceptance. Humans could be messy, impulsive, and unpredictable, but they were alive, resilient, and capable of great kindness. And Alex had shown her that even someone so different could belong. Days turned into weeks, and Lyra's understanding of humans grew. She tried new foods, participated in games and activities she had only studied in transmissions, and even laughed at jokes she did not fully understand. Each experience, though small, added to her sense of being alive. And through it all, Alex remained her anchor, patient, kind, and endlessly curious. One afternoon, while they sat in a quiet park watching the clouds drift across the sky, Lyra spoke softly. "Alex, I have learned something important about humans. About you. About connection." Alex looked at her, intrigued. "What is it?" Lyra paused, considering her words. "Humans do not need perfection. They do not measure worth by logic or ability. They care. They forgive. They trust. And when they connect with someone, they bring out the best in them." Alex reached out and held her hand gently. "Lyra, you've brought out the best in me. Even though you're different, I feel like I understand more of myself when I'm with you." Her heart swelled. She had traveled across the stars, risked everything to understand humans, and in the process had found not just curiosity but friendship, admiration, and trust. Alex had inspired her in ways no observation, calculation, or study could have. He had given her the connection she had craved so deeply. "Alex, I want to stay with humans," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "Not just to observe, but to live among them, to learn from them, to share life with them." Alex squeezed her hand. "Then that's what we'll do. We'll explore it together. I'll show you everything humans are capable of. And maybe you'll show me the universe in ways I never imagined." Vera smiled, feeling the weight of fear lift from her chest. She had found acceptance, not just from one human, but from the human who mattered most to her. And that acceptance gave her courage to be herself, to embrace her fascination and longing fully, without shame or secrecy. Over time, they shared small adventures, exploring the city at night, visiting museums, watching plays, and attending local festivals. Lyra's presence often amazed Alex's friends, who sometimes commented on her curiosity, intelligence, and unique perspective. She explained things carefully, never revealing her true origins. But her insight and observations often left humans in awe. One day, while helping Alex organize a community project, a small child approached them. Lyra knelt down to meet the child's gaze, and he giggled. "You're funny," he said, tugging at her sleeve. Lyra laughed, the sound clear and musical. "Thank you. You're very brave." Alex watched, a quiet smile on his face. He realized that Lyra's fascination with humans was not just about curiosity. It was a deep admiration, a desire to understand and connect. And that admiration was reflected in the way she treated others with patience, kindness, and care. Later that evening, as they walked home under the starlit sky, Alex turned to her. "Lyra, I think what you said before, about humans inspiring you, it's true for me too. You've changed how I see the world, how I see people, and even myself." Lyra's chest tightened with emotion. "And you've shown me that humans can inspire trust and connection, even across differences. That even someone like me can belong here." Alex nodded, taking her hand in his. "Yes, you belong, Lyra, and I'm glad you're here." They continued walking, the city lights reflecting in the river below, feeling the quiet hum of life around them. Lyra realized that humans were not only capable of wonder, bravery, and kindness, they were capable of inclusion, empathy, and trust. And Alex had given her the greatest gift of all, a sense of belonging. As weeks became months, Lyra and Alex built a rhythm together. They explored, learned, laughed, and even faced small challenges. Through it all, their bond strengthened. Lyra had come to Earth seeking understanding, and she had found something even greater: connection, trust, and mutual admiration. One quiet evening, sitting on a rooftop overlooking the city, Lyra turned to Alex. "Alex, I want to thank you for trusting me, for understanding me, for being human in a way I could finally see and feel." Alex smiled, his hand brushing hers. "Lyra, thank you for coming into my world. You've taught me more than I could have imagined. You've shown me what it means to connect, to care, and to see life through new eyes." Lyra's heart swelled with warmth. She had traveled across the stars, risking everything to understand humans, and now she knew that the journey had been worth it. She had discovered not just curiosity and admiration, but trust, friendship, and the beginnings of something deeper. As the night sky stretched endlessly above them, Lyra realized that her journey was far from over. There would be more to learn, more to experience, and more to share. But she no longer feared the unknown. She had found a human who accepted her, inspired her, and allowed her to be herself. And in that acceptance, she found the courage to continue exploring, living, and connecting. The universe was vast, full of stars, planets, and possibilities. But here, on this small blue planet, Lyra had discovered something extraordinary. Humans were capable of wonder, resilience, and connection, and she had become a part of it. And for Lyra, the adventure had just begun.